Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. We are going to get this program started right on time. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Bellevue Chamber lunch. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for taking a quick seat so that we can get this program started. My name is Joe Fay, and I'm the President and CEO of the Bellevue Chamber. It's an honor to have all of you with us today. It is an honor to have these great two candidates to be here today to talk about the future of King County. This comes on the heels of our very successful Bellevue City Council debate that we had just this time last month, and so we're very excited to welcome both of the candidates here today. Before we get started, I'd like to thank some of our sponsors that are connected to this great lunch series. A big thanks to Vulcan Real Estate, the Bellevue Collection, and Columbia Bank. I also want to thank our media sponsor, Lotus, with Northwest News Radio. And today, a very special media sponsor with KOMO News 4. In fact, today's forum is being streamed live on KOMO, and you can watch it online later. So this is a special treat to have Chris Daniels here and all of the folks at KOMO News. I also want to thank our lunch leader, Clark Newber. I also want to take a quick moment to recognize the dignitaries that are here today. If you are an elected official in our region, could you please stand and be recognized? I know we have a few of them here today. And then, of course, the Bellevue Chamber Board. None of this would be possible without our great members of our Bellevue Chamber Board of Directors. Could I please have our Chamber Board members stand and be recognized? And finally, the Chamber is growing very, very quickly. We were in the upper 300s not that long ago. We're awfully close to reaching that 600 member mark here in just a very short period of time. And so at this time, I would like to welcome any new members that are here today to stand up and be recognized as well. Thank you. So if time allows today, we're going to have an opportunity for some audience questions. And so you can see up on the board here, bellevuechamber.org/ask. You can go online there and submit your question, or there's QR codes at your table. And then throughout the program today, there will be some live polls. So it's not just our candidates that will be answering questions today, but you will have the opportunity to answer some questions today. So keep your phones out. Keep an eye on the slides. We might have some important questions to get feedback from those of you here today. Now, for today's program, we have got an all-star cast of moderators, and I want to introduce the president of Kemper Development Company and the Bellevue Collection, John Carlson. Joining us from Habitat for Humanity, Sahar Amini. And, of course, the world-famous and redoubtable Chris Daniels from KOMO News. I am going to go ahead and turn this over to our great moderators, but again, thank you all for being here today. This is going to be a very entertaining, informative, and consequential conversation because the future of our region depends on our next King County executive. So with that, I will turn it over to our great moderators. Thank you all for being here today.
Camper Development. And I would like to have our co-panelists introduce themselves, tell you a little bit more about them, beginning with Sahar Amini. Sahar?
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm Sahar Amini, and I'm the Policy Manager at Habitat for Humanity, Seattle, King County.
And I'm Chris Daniels from KOMO News. I just see the camera now.
It's there.
Longtime reporter here in Seattle in the East Side, 25 years now here in Seattle. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes. Of course, whenever you're on the campus of the Bellevue Collection, you're always on camera. So, isn't that right, Carl? Anyway, we're really looking forward to this conversation. Two great candidates, and I'd like to start by introducing them, beginning with Councilmember Claudia Balducci. Claudia, housing and transportation champion. All of you know her. She began her political life in East Bellevue, navigated to the Bellevue City Council, was a member of the Dow Constantine administration, and in 2015 elected to the King County Council. Her opponent is Girmay Zahilay. Girmay, who prefers going by Girmay, thank you for that, Girmay. Also chair of the King County Council, former business attorney, born in Sudan, immigrated to the United States, worked at one time in the Obama White House, practiced law at Perkins Coie, other firms as well, and later founded and ran a nonprofit for underserved young people, elected to the King County Council 6 years ago. Welcome, council members. Please take your podiums. Okay, again, this is technically a forum, not a debate, but doesn't mean you can't mix it up. Just don't throw water bottles at each other.
You, John.
At me, yes. Each other, no. And each candidate will have a 90-second opening statement. Then we'll transition to a question and answer. Each question can be answered by both candidates. All right, so with that said, let's begin with, they want to keep it informal, Claudia.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Bellevue Chamber. Thank you all of you for being here. It is really a privilege and a great opportunity to be able to talk to you about this important race today. And ballots are out, so you should be on the lookout. Ballots will be arriving in your mailboxes sometime this week. My name is Claudia Balducci. I am a King County Council member for this very district, so welcome to District 6 if you are not from here. Thank you. And I am not only a King County Council member, I am a longtime county employee. I have been a public servant for over 25 years. I started working at King County as a line staff in the Labor Relations Department, where I got to know lots of different parts of our very complex county and how it works. I worked my way up to be the head of one of the major county departments, the Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention, which runs our jail system. I have served as a mayor of Bellevue. I am a longtime resident of Bellevue, where I have raised my family and am proud to live. King County right now very badly needs government to work. We need to make sure that the things we do are serving the purpose that we have promised to the voters and are reaching the people we are trying to serve. We spend $10 billion a year in tax dollars at King County, and I want to be the next county executive because I know how to make government work. I hope we get to talk about the ways that we have done that together over the years and what I would bring to the table as your next county executive. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Girmay Zahilay. I'm the chair of the King County Council. It's an honor to be here with all of you. I'm running for county executive because I believe that this can be a region of safety and opportunity for everyone. And I believe this because I know what this region was for me and my family. When we arrived here as refugees when I was 3 years old, King County gave us the tools that we needed to rebuild our lives. Affordable housing, good public schools, good jobs. Those things allowed me to go from experiencing poverty and homelessness in South Seattle and Skyway to graduating from Stanford University, going to the University of Pennsylvania Law School, starting my own youth education nonprofit, working in the Obama White House, practicing law at some of the top business firms in the country, including Perkins Coie right here at home, and now serving as chair of the county council. But I'm running today because that story of progress and prosperity is not available for a lot of people, and in fact, it's declining. We have a massive shortage of affordable housing, massive cost of living, public safety issues that are making too many people feel unsafe, a federal government that's attacking too many of our communities. I'm the candidate in this race that has the track record, the vision, and the relationships to deliver for the people of King County. Our work has led to more money in people's pockets, more roofs over people's heads, more connection to mental health and addiction services, but it is not enough. If you are ready for an executive and leadership who is going to bring people together to solve problems and get results, I hope to earn your support today.
Thank you very much, Girmay. Our first question comes from Chris Daniels, KOMO 4 News.
All right, let's start with Girmay since you just went second there. Here's the question. The current budget for public defense and prosecutors proposed by the acting King County executive would mean King County would have 67 more public defenders than prosecutors and funds none of the additional deputy prosecutors requested by prosecuting attorney Lisa Mannion. While some of this is driven by the recent Supreme Court ruling which has mandated maximum caseloads for public defenders, the current proposal leaves the prosecutor's office unable to bring many serious offenders to trial. Recent report from the FBI shows Washington State is having the 4th highest crime rate in the nation, and while property crime pushes us into this top spot, Washington's murder rate has also increased 46% between 2019 and 2024, while much of the nation has seen declines. And with some estimates showing that 3 of Washington's 10 most dangerous cities are right here in King County. So the question, how will you, as the future King County executive, provide the adequate resources to criminal justice and the prosecutor's office to start addressing these trends?
Great question. We need a criminal justice system that is functional. We need more public defenders. We need more prosecutors so that we can resolve very serious cases and keep our community safe. I'm glad you mentioned the context. The state law has mandated that we reduce caseloads for public defenders, and we have to phase that approach in over the next 10 years. That's going to mean mandated more public defenders, and I'm glad that the executive's budget proposal has included more resources for that. It also means we need more prosecutors. We absolutely do. And so I am going to work with the prosecutor's office and my team to make sure that we get more resources for the prosecutor's office, because we know that case backlogs are too high for too many of our communities to get the resolution that they need. And so I support getting more prosecutors, getting more resources to address these serious crimes. We also need more coordination across the entire criminal justice system. We need more upstream services to make sure people are not getting into the criminal justice system in the first place. These are all very serious matters. I don't believe that we need a 1-to-1 exact ratio between the public defenders and the prosecutor's office. I don't believe that's what parity means. They have different roles. They have different things that they have to do. So yes, we should invest more in public defenders, and at the same time, the need for more prosecution, more services is also great. And I was proud to put forward legislation this year to fund our criminal justice system through the criminal justice sales tax, and I will continue making that investment.
Claudia, same question. As the future county executive, how do you provide the adequate resources to criminal justice and the prosecutor's office to start addressing the trends?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And this is not just a question for the next executive. This is a question we are debating right this minute. It is a question we have been debating throughout the year. We did adopt the new criminal justice sales tax that the state gave us authority for in order to forestall major cuts to prosecution, to the sheriff's office and elsewhere within public safety. But there's over $30 million that is not allocated, and we did not adopt a plan for how we were going to allocate that money at the time that we adopted the tax, and we're having that debate right now. This is the only new resource that we have that can be used specifically for public safety and law enforcement, and it is proposed to be used for things like housing, for things like behavioral health. Very important and critical issues, but we have multiple funding sources for those issues, we have only this funding source for public safety. I support the prosecutor's proposal to add resources in her office for extreme risk protection orders to help stop youth gun violence, to have more victim advocates, because we put 14% of our money in this system towards victims and 86% of it towards things that are dealing with the actions of offenders. Victims deserve more support. I am the public safety candidate in this race. I ran a public safety department. I have deep roots. I am endorsed by public safety leaders like former Sheriff Sue Rahr. My colleague ran on closing the juvenile detention facility and redirecting funding away from law enforcement. He has changed his position, but I'm the candidate you can count on to be consistent and support public safety.
So since we're talking about crime and we're in Bellevue, more 911 calls are received from the Plymouth housing complex, which recently, just only a couple of years ago, opened here in Bellevue. It is an example of King County's Housing First model, which allows people to use fentanyl, meth, heroin on the premises of the long-term housing unit they live in. Supporters say that this provides stability and dignity. Other people question whether it just enables and exacerbates behavioral health, substance abuse, and high crime. So as county executive, are you going to continue this homeless strategy built around housing first? Or should we do something different, say what the Salvation Army does, also here on the east side, where we don't have near the number of 911 calls, which focuses on treatment and personal responsibility? We'll start with Girmay.
Thank you so much for the question, John. That is a great question. And it speaks to a larger issue that we all have to contend with, which is, do we adopt dogma or do we have individualized plans for each individual person? I believe that housing first is a necessary part of the strategy for some people. Some people need low barrier access in order to have a starting point for their recovery journey. And so that option needs to be there for some people. Other people, like you said, need treatment, need accountability, need services, need more permanent supportive housing. We need a suite of options for the diversity of issues that exist in the world. When we do housing first, we have to measure a lot of things. Of course, we have to measure the well-being of that individual who is going through that system, and we have to measure the well-being of the community as a whole. So when I say that I support housing first, I want to make sure and measure what does that do to public disorder in that neighborhood? What does that do to public sanitation in that neighborhood? What does that do to people's feeling of safety in that neighborhood? What does that do for 911 calls? Those are the broad metrics that we have to measure when we are defining success. And so I support making sure that we have that in our toolkit and making sure that we are holding all parties accountable to reducing all of those negative unintended consequences if they are existing.
Thank you, John. As you know, I was the mayor of Bellevue who spearheaded the work with the city council here in Bellevue, working with the mayors and the city councils of Kirkland and Redmond to create the first ever suite of homeless shelters in East King County. We never had any permanent homeless shelters before about 2015. And we do have homelessness in East King County. So to have places where people can come indoors, emergency shelters, permanent supportive housing, which is what you're talking about, and which is a proven method for people who need supports to stabilize in housing, to stabilize and stay housed, and to add a lot of affordable housing in places where working families can afford to live in this very expensive part of King County. And so that work is important, but what we need is housing plus. A roof alone doesn't solve many people's problems, but it's necessary. No one is getting well. No one is stabilizing living on the streets, and we want people to stabilize. It is a win-win. It is the right thing to do, the humane thing to do for people in need and for our neighbors who have fallen into need. It is also a public safety strategy to have fewer people on the streets and to make sure that they are getting what they need so that they're not in desperation. I do believe that what we have is sometimes a mismatch between the acuteness of the challenges of people in these places and the services themselves. We hear from providers that they are now seeing people that have needs and challenges and behavioral activities that are beyond what that housing type is able to sustain and provide for. So we need to do a better job of making sure we have all the levels of care and support so that we don't have those sorts of problems.
And moving from crime to drugs, which often drives crime, King County currently invests more than $12 million every 2 years in what are called harm reduction strategies, including needle exchange programs, Narcan distribution, vending machines for drug-using kits, and related outreach. In 2020, there were 200 people who died from fentanyl. In the last 3 years, we have had 1,000 people die each year. 3,000 dead in 3 years. The response from the people who support this approach is that we need to go even further, and the state is now considering what are called no-barrier drug distribution, where the government would provide fentanyl and meth and heroin to drug users. Do you support this approach? Claudia.
I will start, yeah. I believe that government's role should be to keep people alive and to help them to get clean and sober and to get treatment so that they can move out of addiction and into stable lives. I do not agree that we should be providing drugs to people who are in addiction. So that is not something that's under consideration at King County. As far as I know, it would not be if I were county executive. But harm reduction is the part where we keep people alive. Needle exchange programs started because people were dying and spreading serious diseases by sharing needles. It was not to keep people on heroin, it was to protect the public health. The reason that we provide harm reduction packages for people on fentanyl is because it is a way to get them Narcan. The new treatment methodologies, Narcan, which is overdose reversal medication, and buprenorphine, which is treatment to stay off of opioids, are starting to work. We are seeing a reduction beginning of a reduction in addiction and in deaths in the last year or so. And so we do that to keep people alive. At the same time, we need to be building relationships with people in addiction and getting them into treatment and providing the resources for treatment so that when somebody is ready to go into treatment, there is a place for them to go. Our crisis care centers will be part of that response. I am also working on a proposal with former Sheriff Sue Rahr that will be a diversion from jail. If you are picked up because of drug use on the streets and you're not ready or able to say that it is that you want to go inside, it'll be a place you can go that is not voluntary. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I still have to answer the question. Yeah, the amount of death and despair in our community because of substance use disorders is alarming, outrageous, and unacceptable, and it would be my top priority as King County Executive to reverse these trends. I fully understand why people have mixed feelings about some of these harm reduction techniques, giving out clean needles. And I was skeptical at first too, many years ago when I first started looking into this. And then you look at the data, and it is very compelling that these programs are successful depending on what your metrics are. They are successful at reducing deaths. They are successful at reducing the transmission of deadly viruses like HIV. They are successful at reducing emergency room visits. And we know that those are not the only criteria for success. We have to have a broad criteria. Those are the most important criteria to me because I want to keep people alive. And we have to make sure that those are on-ramps for people to get more treatment, more services, and on a path to recovery. We have to make sure that those programs are not associated with public sanitation issues. It's also unacceptable for people to be walking over needles and making sure, experiencing unsafe streets and public disorder. I want to measure for those outcomes as well. And so I support this program as a comprehensive approach to keeping people alive, and I would make sure that we are doing aggressive outreach to get people into treatment, to make sure that we're addressing public disorder, make sure that people have access to 911 when they need it, and we're doing clean pickup programs to make sure that we're not leaving any of these things behind.
Thank you. Let's move to housing now, shall we? The American dream of ever owning your own home is pulling further and further out of reach for King County residents. The median home sale price, according to Zillow, is $855,000 in King County, and you need an income of around $250,000 in order to afford that, an income that many across King County don't make. What will you do as county executive to make homeownership more accessible for King County residents? Claudia?
Well, thank you for the question, and I am very proud to have been one of the local leaders who has pushed the hardest to make homes more affordable for people in King County. I led a task force that brought all the cities and King County together early on in my time on the county council, and we have since then been implementing strategies to make homes more affordable, including pushing a lot of change through supply strategies that y'all are all seeing in your comprehensive plans, because we made it for the first time ever a responsibility of county government and city governments to plan for and accommodate housing affordable to all levels of income. This is something we have never done before, and is part of the reason why the housing stock is not affordable in many, many parts of this county. We have had a lot of success on rental housing. We've pushed, and I am very proud to have championed a program at Sound Transit that's using surplus Sound Transit land to create thousands of affordable homes right near light rail where they can do a lot of good. What we have not done a lot of is investing in affordable home ownership. And this is going to be a high priority for me as executive to advance that, because that's how you build wealth. That is typically in America how we have had people move up into the middle classes, by being able to afford a home. There are great organizations like Habitat for Humanity that do this work, that know how to do it, that are cost effective, but government has not invested because we've been concerned about the production and how many numbers of units can be proposed. I think we should do it, and I think we should scale it up and make home ownership more available to everyone.
Same question to you. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much. Yes, home ownership has been the bedrock of people's ability to generate wealth for the average family across our country, including in King County, and it's out of reach for too many people. And there are racial disparities here. We know that black home ownership is lagging behind a lot of many other households, and so we have to address this issue. It has been a top priority for me. I was proud that Habitat for Humanity gave me their Affordable Home Ownership Champion Award a couple of years ago because of my work in this space. We have to pursue multiple home ownership strategies. There are community land trust models like the one that I'm working with Homestead Community Land Trust and Skyway to build home ownership for communities in an affordable way. There are down payment assistance programs through organizations like HomeSite, which I have supported through our budget programs. We have to make sure that we continue to bring down the cost of housing in general by increasing the supply through public investment in home ownership and in subsidizing the cost of housing. We have to change our zoning like I did through my missing middle housing legislation to make sure that we're able to build more types of multifamily housing in more places. We have to have more regional coordination with our regional partners so that every corner of the region is building its fair share of housing. That will drive down the cost of housing and allow people to buy more affordable homes in the first place. And so there are many strategies we can do. This is a top priority for me, and I would be proud to pursue this as the next executive.
And again, since we're in Bellevue, someone I know recently was looking to move here with her husband, 2 kids, and they could not find a home for less than $1.5 million. And even what they were able to find would have resulted in about an $8,000 a month mortgage. So, Girmay, when you say that we need to make public investments in affordable housing, where are you going to find the money to make housing in Bellevue affordable for middle-class people?
Absolutely. It is a really challenging proposition right now because of all the federal funding that we're losing, and the state is drawing back some of its resources as well. We have a lot of tools, and they're not in healthy shape. We have our hotel motel tax, which generates money for affordable housing, and it's not in a good position right now. We have other grant programs, and we have to make sure that we continue pursuing those. And so there is no magic bullet for this. We have to be aggressive. We have to lobby the state government to give us more progressive options, because we can't continue funding affordable housing on the backs of homeowners. You know, for King County, we're always caught in that dilemma of, do we increase property taxes to invest in affordable housing? And that can depending on how far we go, that can be counterproductive because you might be displacing and cost burdening a lot of the people who you're trying to help in the first place. And so it's a combination of increasing the investments using the tools that we have, aggressively lobbying the state government to give us more revenue options, and making sure that we're increasing housing supply by making it easier to build. That means streamlining our permitting processes, getting rid of any unnecessary or duplicative regulations so that developers can develop housing more efficiently, and strengthening our regional coordination and collaboration with our regional partners.
Okay. Claudia.
Thank you so much. That story is distressingly common. We hear it all the time. We experience it in our own lives. We often sit around and say about how we bought our own homes and how much it would cost today if we had to try to buy into the neighborhoods that we enjoy today. It is critically important, especially in these very expensive parts of King County, that we get our arms around affordability so that the next generation of young people, our kids, young professionals, young people just starting out, can afford to come here and enjoy what we have enjoyed. I do not want East King County to be an exclusive place. I want it to be a place where many different people can afford to live. I'll tell you some of the tools, because I've been working on this topic for a long time, and I've been organizing and partnering with people of all sectors, all cities, and we have been making some progress. The LIHTC program of the federal government is actually in pretty good shape because it is the one thing that is not on the chopping block, because red states like it too. It's a tax credit. We have funding sources at King County, multiple funding sources, as I said, that we can use and bond against in order to get more housing built. Partnerships are critical. It has been a big game changer to have big employers, especially like Microsoft and Amazon, who have decided that this is important to their corporate future and their employees, and so they are putting funding into helping to create affordable housing. I talked earlier about land donations and land discounts on government land, supply strategies through planning. We have so many tools in this toolbox. We need to deploy them, and as local government, we need to let up off the hose and allow housing to be built. We stop it too much. And I am very proud to be endorsed by all the folks in this race who provide housing, because they know who can work with them and make housing happen.
Thank you. Is my mic on? Okay, there we go. You mentioned streamlining permitting processes. Last year, the King County Council approved reforms calling on the county's permitting office to cut processing times by half. However, this month, the council is considering updates to its own critical areas ordinance that would add significant unpredictability and costly new standards to the housing development process. For example, even small projects may now be subject to expensive hydrological studies, costly geotechnical reviews, greater mitigation or stream buffers, in addition to other requirements that will decrease the viability of housing development in unincorporated King County. Many experts point out that the continued increase in environmental processes and regulations have contributed significantly to the reason that housing production in other parts of the nation have eclipsed the abysmal numbers here in King County. What specifically will you be willing to do to rein in the regulatory cost of housing construction, and are you willing to take a closer look at the new proposed critical areas requirements through the lens of its impact on housing? Girmay.
Absolutely. My number one priority is to build more housing. We have to build 308,000 units of housing by 2044. That is a tall task, and it's going to require us to prioritize what we care about. All the things that you just mentioned, Sahar, are very important, just like it's very important to make sure that we have other climate regulations in our housing, just like it's important to have minority and women business ownership requirements for contracting. A lot of our regulations are important, but what's happening is, in their totality, they are making it so that the cost of construction is astronomical, and a lot of developers are abandoning projects. And so what I would do is set up a permitting and regulation review task force within 60 days of taking office to make sure that we're assessing what is happening in the totality. I have been bringing together housing developers as part of my campaign, and they've been sharing with us feedback about what it's been like to work with King County. and it has not been good. What they are telling us is that there are long delays, there are onerous regulations, they don't have enough customer service, they feel like there is a culture in the departments of not being helpful, and so there is a comprehensive review that we have to do and say that above all else, we need to increase our housing supply within our urban areas. That is a top priority for me.
Thank you. Just to get a clear answer, a more direct answer to the last part of the question, are you willing to take a closer look at the new proposed critical areas requirement through the lens of its impact on housing that's coming up?
Yes.
Thank you. Claudia.
Yeah, I think back to very early on in my time as an elected official, I sat down with the then executive director of ARCH, our regional coalition for housing here outside of Seattle, and he told me something I've never forgotten, and that is we put everything before housing. Everything. Environmental regulations, labor regulations, all good and important things, but every time we add another barnacle onto that boat that is of housing, of creating housing, we make it harder and more expensive to build housing. We haven't done the balancing that we should. To directly answer your question, of course we should do the balancing and look at what the impacts of our critical areas ordinance proposal are on housing. That doesn't mean we remove all of the requirements, right? We look at what is the real cost benefit. So for example, a piece of regulation that might slow the production of housing in rural, unincorporated King County, well outside the urban growth boundary, doesn't trouble me as much as a regulation that holds it back from being built here in Bellevue, where we should be building housing and infill housing. I think what as a county executive I would propose is that we always do an impact review of anything that we are doing in the regulatory environment or elsewise that is impacting the provision of housing and ask ourselves, what are the pros and cons? We should surface that information so we're making good choices. And I think we should do that from the ground up. We should go back and look at all our previous adopted regulations and programs and see how we are turning the valve more towards on for housing or turning it more towards off. I think sometimes even when we intend to be turning it on, we're turning it off, and we need to be turning towards on.
Thank you.
All right, Claudia, I don't know if you heard this news.
Is it about the Mariners?
No. You still cannot take a train from Bellevue to Seattle across the lake.
You can't. I can't. No.
It's 5 years overdue at this point, going across the lake.
Yes.
And as you are well aware, Sound Transit is now talking about a 20 to 40 billion with a B in potential overruns to get even ST3 done. I've already heard people whispering, oh, we might have to raise some more taxes to finish all of this. You will have a greater voice on Sound Transit as the King County executive. What's the big idea to fix it?
Yeah, thank you for that. And this is a good news, bad news situation. I have been involved, as many of you know, with Sound Transit and the expansion of the light rail system for a very long time. It has been a mission in my life. There's a train on my campaign logo for a reason. And I will say, I was joking, but there is a train going back and forth across the bridge every night. If you go out on I-90, you'll see it because they're testing, and that means it's going to be opening soon. And it is fully funded and fully planned, and when the testing is cleared, we will open it. So the good news is we're going to open the East Link all the way to Seattle and connect to the rest of the system. The bad news is, as we're building out ST3, which is the next chunk of projects that is intended to serve Everett, Tacoma, and West Seattle to Ballard, we are facing dramatic cost escalation. We're going to need to do everything. All kinds of little things, like some of the things that are coming out of the reform effort that I proposed along with former Sound Transit Board Chair Kent Keel, that is now starting to have an impact, changing how we do contracting, implementing a streamlined project management system, things that are going to save time and therefore money, and that's a real effort about a million little things. But we're also going to need to think about big things. My biggest idea that I have proposed at Sound Transit is that we take a look at whether we really need to build a second tunnel in downtown Seattle to have all the lines pass through it. In other parts of the world, they are retrofitting very old tunnels in order to allow about the same volume of trains that we are planning to do. If we could have one tunnel, that would save billions of dollars and provide a better system. Small ideas, big ideas, all the ideas.
Okay, Girmay, a lot of people in this room can't take the train across the lake.
Almost nobody can. He could. He could too. He and I could. Any other board members here? They could.
So same question. I mean, there's a massive issue here and a shortfall. Already people talking about will Sound Transit need to go back and ask for more money to finish ST3? What's your big idea?
Sound transit is a popular service that a lot of people want and need all over the region to get where they need to go. And it is also true that if sound transit continues on the path that it is right now, it will be over $30 billion in the hole. And that is a huge problem, and we have to take dramatic action right now. We have worked with the CEO to put forward the enterprise initiative that is going to do a full rescoping of the agency to find out how do we deliver on our promises within budget. I think we need to deliver on our promises within budget. And they're going to come back to us with a bunch of different scenarios. There are little levers that we can pull to, save a little bit of money, and then there are giant levers we can pull that would save us a lot more money. On the small side, there are design changes that can be made. You don't build an escalator here, you don't build an escalator there. There are mid-sized changes around how you change the construction method. Maybe you don't do deep excavation in certain parts of the system to try to avoid the cost associated with it. But then there's the big stuff that I think is going to need to happen to make the vision affordable. You can collapse and eliminate certain stations. If you're going to West Seattle, you can skip the Avalon station. You can consolidate Denny and Westlake in the Ballard link. You can avoid building the second tunnel, as my colleague is mentioning, in downtown. Those are all massive changes, but they might be necessary to deliver on the vision within budget.
Thank you. Let's talk about something a little lighter, the Trump administration.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
The Trump administration's ability to control the distribution of congressionally appropriated funds is still an open legal question. If the courts eventually allow sequestration and the Trump administration conditions funds headed to King County for critical services like transit and public health on you agreeing to allow immigration officials access to jails, courthouses, and other county facilities, how will your administration respond? Girmay.
No, I would not comply. I don't think we should be funding our services on the backs of vulnerable communities, and I respect the position that our current executive, Shannon Braddock, has been taking on this issue. It takes a lot of courage to do what she's been doing, which is suing the federal government in response to some of these unlawful and what we believe to be unconstitutional provisions. Things like, if we give you money, you have to get rid of all your DEI programs. If we give you money, you have to divulge personally identifiable information of vulnerable, undocumented communities. I do not think that is a precedent that we should set. And I should note that that's not an easy decision to make, because these federal funds are very valuable for our region, but I just do not think that we should be taking that approach. And so as executive, I would work hand in hand with the Attorney General, who has endorsed our campaign, by the way, to continue suing the federal government. We would continue doing what the current executive is doing, which is forming coalitions with counties and cities all around the country to file lawsuits against this federal administration, and they have been successful in getting temporary restraining orders in many cases. And so we have to continue fighting. We cannot let up. This is how authoritarian regimes begin. And so I will be a fighter. I will be resisting. I will be making sure that we're coordinating across county, state, and federal government to make sure that we assert our values and make sure that we're continuing to push back on this administration.
Thank you. Claudia.
Yeah, I was a former jail director, as I've said, for the King County Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention, and worked in the executive branch when we first had real challenges with ICE. And this was during the Obama administration. ICE wanted us to hold people in our jails after their sentence had run or after the court had ordered the person released because their court process had run, and hold them for 3 days with no charges at all, with no reason at all. Baldly unconstitutional. You don't get to detain people in this country for no reason. You have to have a legal constitutional reason. And they leaned on us then to try to get us to hold people for up to 3 days beyond when they should have been released, so that they could decide whether to come and interview people and determine whether they were subject to immigration proceedings. And we refused to do it. The council backed us up on it. I wasn't on the council yet, but the council backed us up on it, and we stopped doing that, and it was later ruled by the courts to be completely unconstitutional. So ICE has been a challenge for us for a very long time. It's accelerating now, and frankly, some of the behavior of ICE officials in some areas, not identifying themselves, covering their faces. If I was grabbed by a guy in camo with a black mask over his face and no identification and thrown in a van, I would think I was being kidnapped. We need to partner with the federal government and be good partners. But what is being asked of us now is not to be a good partner, and we cannot be part of it.
Okay, speaking of jails, the previous King County executive pledge, she closed the youth jail and then backed off that pledge when we saw a rise in violent juvenile crime. I realize this is a forum, but not a debate, yet, Claudia, you mentioned that your opponent has changed his opinion and position on closing the youth jail, so let's get this out in the open. Girmay, do you still favor closing the youth jail?
I do not, and I think it's important to share the full context. When I was running for office in 2019, what I said is we should close the youth jail and open smaller, secure facilities that are more therapeutic. So I was trying to tackle two goals. Number one, we absolutely need a secure building to address serious violent crimes like those that you mentioned before. And number two, we have an obligation to support our young people who have developing brains and who increase recidivism depending on how you treat them when they are in confinement. And so my goal was to make sure we maintain a secure facility and make sure we have a better environment within that facility that sets our young people up for success. Now I believe that we can do that within the existing facility because I don't think we need to go around trying to site new jails. That is a proposition that is way beyond the resources that we have right now. I believe that we should direct those resources toward the building that we have. So I think we should integrate the existing facility with more community services, more therapeutic, more behavioral health services, make sure that we try to change the internal infrastructure to be more conducive of an environment that supports young people. When I go down there and I visit the young people, they tell me they come out of confinement feeling dizzy, disoriented, having trouble managing their anger. That is not setting them up for success right now. I think we can create a better system while maintaining a secure facility.
And Claudia, you just mentioned your jail background. What is the long-term solution for King County? Can the youth jail ever be closed at any point in time?
So we have made tremendous progress in this county on using juvenile detention only for the most serious cases. When I first started at King County, you would have about 200 youth on average in our juvenile detention facility every night. Now we're closer to 50, and we've been below that. But the kids who are in that facility are largely there for very serious offenses, gun violence, physical violence, or they are just completely uncooperative with the criminal legal system, and we can't process their cases. And so we can't trust that we're keeping the community safe unless we have that structure. I believe we will always need a structure like that. When we built the new detention facility, my team and I were the ones from the jail department who were part of the planning. We proposed, and ultimately it was built to be modular, which means if we are wildly successful, if we invest in young people, as we do and as we should do more of, and as I would do more of as an executive, and that investment pays off, and we see decreases in crime and decreases in need for detention, we can close one of those units or more, put a wall behind it, and then open the door to the outside and use that facility for something else. So we built it to not be like, if you build it, they will come. We built it to be useful no matter whether we succeed at locking up fewer young people or whether we fail at that. But I've always thought we would need a facility. I have been consistent about this. My colleague has changed his position in the context of this campaign. I think that I am the candidate you can rely on to be consistent on public safety.
Okay, I want to get back to Sound Transit for a moment because you were talking about ways to save money, and maybe one way to save money is to start applying the concept of value. What are we getting for what we're paying? Now, the issue of the West Seattle line came in, the proposed West Seattle line, which would be south of downtown, running into West Seattle, California, and Alaska Street Junction. It's about 4 miles, 3 stations, and the current price tag is nearly $8 billion. That is more than we are paying for the 520 floating bridge. And you suggested, Girmay, maybe doing away with one of the stations. And Claudia, you've got an ad running on TV saying you're going to do the West Seattle run and the Ballard run as well. So the obvious question to ask here is, why would we even think about spending $8 billion for a 4-mile light rail line that largely replicates a bus run that I used to take all the time when I was a kid. We'll start with Claudia.
Thank you. Can I just say, everything old is new again, right? This is a debate we have been having in Bellevue since I started. Is it worthwhile to invest in a train? Shouldn't we just invest in more buses? We have been having this debate for decades. There are reasons to invest in high-capacity transit, and I have always believed in them, always, and I still believe in them today. Every major metro region has a fixed rail transit system for a reason. It's because it is capacity that provides a way for people to get out of their cars, to have choices, to have reliability, frequent, fast transit transportation. As regions grow, as traffic gets worse, you can choose to get out of that traffic. It is a very valuable infrastructure to have. And I fought for light rail in East King County for this reason, despite being told 20 years ago it's not cost effective, the exact same argument that we're having today. That said, there has got to be a level of cost at which it is too much, right? And so what we're doing right now on the board with, my leadership, Dow's leadership as the new executive director, is we are looking very closely at ways to create value, to reduce cost, and to deliver a system that the voters approved, and that's now our mandate to deliver, in a way that is cost effective. But one thing that I think we miss, here we sit in the Bellevue Collection, this incredible big development in the heart of the second largest downtown in the state. There's a reason that rail works, and that is because it drives development, it drives growth, and it drives economic prosperity in ways that a bus stop does not.
Can you make the case that spending $8 billion for a 4-mile line from south of downtown into West Seattle, which is largely now a bus run, why that's a good value for the people of King County?
I think my vision for a modern society involves high-speed rail that connects the entire region. West Seattle is part of the region. They should be part of that system. And it is also true that the time to ask the question about what the maximum we're willing to pay for that segment of the system is right now. This is the best time to ask that question because we are taking a step back and assessing the entire system and the entire agency and seeing what we can deliver within budget. What I have asked the agency to do is come back to us as quickly as possible with all of the various scenarios. And some of those scenarios might include not going to West Seattle. Some of them might be building what they call the minimum operable segment, which is just to Delridge, and a lot of people don't like that. But right now is the time to be asking those questions and to be open-minded. So would I review one of the options being not going to West Seattle amongst many other alternatives? Yes, that's on the table. We have to look into that. But do I advocate for that? No, because going back to my value statement, my value is that we need to connect the entire region with one unified, highly reliable, effective, safe transit system.
Last question. Here we go. And it's a big one. You may have heard that Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell is running for re-election, and he suggested on the campaign trail that Seattle may have to alter its approach to funding the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, suggesting there is not buy-in from the county, and that Seattle may pull out. It may just become a policy organization. Girmay, I'll ask you the question first. What kind of new model would you back for King County if Seattle pulls out of the KCRHA?
Yeah, King County declared homelessness an emergency 10 years ago, and 10 years later we have more people living on the street than ever. This is unacceptable. The King County Regional Homelessness Authority has not produced the results that we want it to produce. I believe we need a full reset. I still support having a regional approach because I think this is a regional problem and I don't want us to go back to the fragmented system that we had previously. And it's also true that for this regional system to work, it has to have regional buy-in, and right now it does not have that regional buy-in that is needed. So what I will do as my #1 priority if I get into this office is have a Reset the Region tour. Go around to our suburban cities, to our private sector, to our nonprofit sector, and ask the question of what kind of structure would make you have buy-in, would make you have the trust needed to put your dollars where your values are, because we truly do need that regional system where everybody is putting in the resources. So there is that accountability and trust building piece that needs to happen very soon after the next executive gets into office, and we need to have structural reforms. In order to have those structural reforms, the trust comes first, and those structural reforms look like better decision making at the entity. Right now, what I hear from people who work there is too many decisions have to go up the chain, and that slows down the process. More oversight over the budget. Too many different partners are saying, I didn't know what the budget was before it came to us last minute. We need way more scrutiny over the budget as well. And so lots of changes need to happen, and we need to work together to make it happen.
All right, Claudia, what happens if Seattle pulls out? What's the new model look like?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I won't need to go on a regional learning tour. I've been in this for years, and I've worked closely with all of the cities, and I know what's going on here. The cities are not investing. Seattle is putting by far the most money into King County Regional Homelessness Authority. King County comes second. But that doesn't mean that every other city isn't also putting their resources into homelessness. They are. Any city of any size has got a homelessness coordinator, outreach people, contracts for sheltering. Everybody is putting their resources in one way or another into trying to solve this problem. What we're not doing is what KCRHA was meant to help us do, is coordinate. We're not coordinated, and we are not focused on results. And so what we end up doing is we're supporting a system, we're keeping a system going that has certain services in certain ways in certain places, but we're not driving towards results together in a way that is effective. So as executive, the first thing I would do is I would look at our regional agreement. We need to acknowledge all of the efforts that every city is putting in and the county, come together in alignment on a goal. Pick a goal. I would say, let's reduce unsheltered homelessness by 10% within a certain period of time. And then we work all of the things that we're doing together. We meet together as a coordinating agency, but not necessarily a separate government. And then we push to do the things that will move us towards that goal, and then report out on how we're doing and adjust as we go if we're having results. If we're not having results, we do something different. It is not rocket science. It's just been hard for us to get together because it's hard to gain that alignment. I think I am well situated to pull alignment together across all the cities.
Thank you. We're going to move to the closing statements. You'll each have 30 seconds. Claudia, we'll begin with you.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for having us here today over lunch. Having the opportunity to talk to you all has been very, very meaningful. I just want to reiterate, as the ballots arrive and you're thinking about voting in your household and you're thinking about talking to your friends and neighbors and colleagues, I am the candidate in this race who has actually provided housing. You want housing? I am the one with the experience who's actually provided thousands of new homes and the groundwork for hundreds of thousands more. I have provided and overcome challenges with transportation. I have led public safety agencies. If you want someone who's getting it done, that's this candidate, and that is why I am endorsed by people in all of those fields.
Girmay.
I just want to thank you all as well for this really great conversation. Ballots are out now. I hope everybody will go check their mailbox and vote for Girmay for King County Executive. I know that Bellevue is my stronghold. It is the place where I earn my most votes. That was a joke, everybody. But just wanted to say thank you so much. There is a lot at stake in this race, and I hope that I can earn your support so that we can work together to build the region of safety and opportunity that we all deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. And now I would like to invite Joe Fain. A round of applause, everybody.
That was an extraordinary conversation today, and I'm really glad we were all here to be a part of that. Very good questions from our fabulous crew of moderators. Let's give them a round.